Hello everyone and welcome to the live stream. I hope that you are all doing well. Tonight we have some updates on situations that I've talked about in the past. Of course, media attacking the things that we love and some other topics, but welcome. Tonight we are going to be talking about the UK government collecting evidence on video game loot boxes. I've talked quite a bit about loot boxes and different governments trying to kind of go after loot boxes. Loot boxes, in a lot of people's opinions, are very predatory things. And we just have another government going after loot boxes. I'm personally not a fan of loot boxes. They're very predatory in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. A lot of companies do a lot of shitty things with loot boxes. They put in items that are 1 in 1,000 chance, so you end up spending tons of money on the loot boxes. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about how Time is going after superheroes. We're re-examining how we portray cops on screen. But now it's time to talk about superheroes. I am so sick of the things that we love being attacked over nonsense, because this article starts in one spot and completely goes to another by the end of it. They start with pushing one narrative and it ends at a completely different narrative. It's ridiculous. We're going to talk about how The Last of Us Part 2 has Last of Us Part 2's man-baby backlash is a stain on fan culture. They call you, if you're a critic of The Last of Us Part 2, a man-baby, but they also call us, of course, incels. I'm so sick of hearing the word incel. It is so overused in situations where it's pointless to say, but that's just the insult that's going around on the internet. So we're incels now. I'm also going to kind of make just a quick statement on the situation with Reckful. I don't want to talk about it too much because it is new, but I know a lot of people are going to come into the live stream and ask of my opinion on it and ask me to talk about it, so I thought that I would kind of just talk about it really quickly. It's not going to be a very in-depth portion of the live stream at all, but I did want to kind of talk about streaming and social media and cancel culture and just the mental health toll that it takes on creators. But those are the topics that we have lined up for tonight. Welcome in, everyone. Before we get started with the articles and the topics, I hope that you are all doing well. I hope 2020 has not brought everyone down. I know that we talk about it a lot, but 2020 has been a year. It has been a year. That is for sure. Cancel culture. I agree. Cancel culture. So little positive outcomes happen with cancel culture. Like 95% of the time, it's not a positive cancel, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't agree with cancel culture. Fuck cancel culture. But it is definitely bad for a lot of people. I don't agree, Rez. Get rid of Twitter and you would get rid of 90% of cancel culture. I disagree because I don't think that Twitter takes up most of cancel culture. Or all of it, like 90%. Yes, Twitter is a huge part of cancel culture, but so are other social media platforms. Like, literally anywhere that you can leave a comment, a public comment, there will be cancel culture. I definitely think that Twitter is a huge part of that, but I also think that, like, Facebook is a huge part of that. And I mean, even in, comment sections, like on YouTube or Twitch, I think that anywhere that people can leave comments, there's going to be that negativity. 2020 is only the beginning. 2020, I feel like 2018, a lot of bad things started, and 2020 is just wow. Twitter is a shithole. I do agree Twitter has its problems. Twitter is definitely a form of social media that I don't recommend you have unless you really want to follow very specific creators or social media influencers or keep up with news. It is very toxic if you are actually using it to talk to people and comment on things. And social media, ladies and gentlemen, social media is not all bad. The internet is not all bad. Very good things do come out of very toxic platforms, I guess you could say, but there's just a lot of toxicity. YouTube comments are part of it. I definitely think that, yeah, like YouTube comments and, I mean, Twitch live stream chat and, you know, many things play a role in how toxic social media can be for a lot of people. And there are a lot of people who can balance social media and use it sparingly, I guess you could say. But when you're a content creator and whatnot, it definitely, I mean, usually it's your career's focused around things like social media, which make it very hard to ignore. But we're gonna touch on that a little bit later. Yeah, so EVO and FGC is a very big situation. So as a lot of you know right now, in the gaming industry is kind of going through a Me Too movement. There's been a lot of allegations against a lot of people, and the Super Smash Brothers community, specifically in the fighting game community, has been hit with that very rough. There have been a lot of situations over the past few days of people coming out, and Joey, Mr. Wizard, he is part of NetherRealms. He's the, NetherRealms community manager, I want to say. And he's done stuff with EVO. There were a couple of people who came forward against him and said that he did, you know, very disgusting things. I have not seen a statement from him yet, which is why I have not passed any judgment or anything. For me, obviously, as you guys can tell, I like to see evidence from both sides of the story, and for a lot of the situations, and a lot of the people who have gotten Me Too'd in the gaming industry over the past few weeks, a lot of people haven't defended themselves, whether they are guilty, or whether they just don't want to, or maybe they're seeking legal counsel. In a lot of situations, you know, I'm reading one side of the story, and I go, wow, that's really messed up, but we haven't heard from the other side of the situation yet, which is a huge part of me talking about situations. So that's why I haven't talked a lot about the situations, just because we've only gotten one side of the story. Let me check chat. I miss the 1980s. I'll go back. I have no problem with being stuck with C64, Apple IIe, and an Atari 800. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people would agree with you. A lot of people would probably agree with you. 2020. Overwatch loot boxes are fine, I guess. I'll talk in a minute when we get into the article, kind of my thoughts on loot boxes, and I guess what loot boxes are a bit more acceptable than others, because I definitely think that there are some loot boxes that are designed properly that are not very predatory, but in a lot of other cases, a lot of them are extremely predatory. 80s and 90s best movies released ever. You know what? I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, everyone, let us start with the first topic, which is loot boxes. I've talked about loot boxes quite a few times here on the channel. Loot boxes are definitely something kind of ingrained in the gaming industry now. At first, the way that developers and companies used to make money after your initial purchase were DLCs. You know, you would purchase a $20 DLC for a game and they would come out with 4 or 5 DLCs, and you would get a lot of content for your money. I personally really didn't mind that business model. I feel like it's a much better situation when someone is buying something and they know what they're getting, compared to loot boxes, which is a standard practice in the industry now, where, you know, you might spend $1 on a loot box and you might get nothing, and then you buy more and more because you have items in loot boxes which have a 1 in 1,000 chance for you to be able to get. loot boxes are a very predatory system most of the time. I do think that some loot boxes are a little bit more acceptable than others. Overwatch is, as someone had said in the chat, one of the types of loot boxes that I do not mind as much, and because they are cosmetic only. I personally don't mind when developers sell appearance or customization loot boxes where you might get a skin for your character or a gun or your weapon or whatever. I don't think that those are as predatory because while yes, there are people who want to spend as much money as it takes to get all of the items and unlock all of the items, your gameplay does not rely on getting those items, which I think is extremely important. I do not think loot boxes which have items that boost your character, or boost your stat, or boost anything that have to do with the way that you play the game, I do not think that those are okay. But we have a brand new situation that is happening. It's not brand new, but it was something that I wanted to touch on. The UK government has announced that they are going to be collecting evidence on video game loot boxes. We've heard a little bit about the UK government kind of starting to go after loot boxes, and with a lot of governments as well. I know Australia's, and it's always been in question because of how predatory some of them can be, and how viciously consumers go after companies like EA, which sell very predatory loot boxes. But they are starting to collect evidence on loot boxes, which I feel is just another step towards the demise of the practice. So it says, the discussion surrounding loot boxes ramps up as yet another world government turns its eye to the practice. The UK government has announced plans to call for evidence that in video game loot boxes constitute gambling and thus require regulations as such. Let me make this screen a tiny bit bigger. There we go, that's better. The Department for Digital Culture, Media, and Sport will oversee the collection of evidence, which is estimated to begin later this year. It's unclear at the moment what the outcome of such an investigation would be. At the very least, regulation could require companies to obtain a gambling license. So this is what companies did not want to happen. Companies like Activision, Blizzard, EA, many companies, this is what they did not want to happen. Because when your product is constituted as gambling, you get into having to follow specific laws and do very specific things and treat your product a very specific way. And now, kind of karma is coming to bite them in the ass because, while yes, it does say possibly later this year, the department will be collecting evidence. I have the feeling that once they collect that evidence, it is going to change how companies treat loot boxes and what they do when it comes to loot boxes. I do think that companies will stop doing loot boxes and go to something possibly even more predatory. When it comes to, other ways to monetize your game, companies are only going to get greedier and greedier, and we've seen that over the years. They start at one level, and then they say, oh, well, maybe we could bump that up a little bit, and then it skyrockets because they're always setting new guidelines for themselves and setting these goals. And if they want to reach those goals, they have to sell more product. And what are they going to do to sell more product? Well, they're going to, unfortunately, keep doing really shitty things most of the time. The article continues on, though. During the coronavirus pandemic, we have seen more people than ever before turn to video games and immersive technology to keep them entertained and to stay in touch with friends and family, the UK Minister for Digital and Culture said in a statement. These innovations can present challenges, though, as well as opportunities, which is why we are taking the necessary steps to protect users and promote the safe enjoyment of this dynamic industry. The investigation into loot boxes is part of a greater re-examination by the UK government of the region's Gambling Act, a 2005 piece of legislation that sought to ensure that gambling is conducted in a fair and open way, and to protect children and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by gambling. Review of the Act is part of the manifesto put forth by the UK's Conservative Party during the 2019 general election. I see you guys talking about it in chat. If they got rid of loot boxes, I do wonder what the next shitty thing they do will be. Because again, they start at one spot and then they keep going up notches. Like, how far can we push this? Obviously, I think that loot boxes weren't as bad until I believe it was EA really started pushing them hard. I mean, if we look at things like sports games now, all sports games are riddled with microtransactions and loot boxes and all of these things, and there are genres which do suffer from being heavily monetized. I mean, look at, fighting games. A lot of fighting games are very poorly monetized. You have to spend thousands of dollars to get items. And there is a point where, yes, cosmetic items do get into the realm of, should you really be monetizing them this harshly? But again, I don't think that cosmetic microtransactions are as bad as microtransactions and loot boxes, where you're literally buying things that increase your character's stats or the way that you play the game. This news is part of a larger ongoing discussion about loot boxes in video games. In recent years, the practice has come under increased scrutiny from several parties. In 2018, the International Game Developers Association called for an industry-wide action on loot boxes, lest government bodies becoming involved. The warnings went unheeded, though, and since then the US FTC has turned its attention to loot boxes, and a senator from Missouri proposed a bill to ban them outright. I don't think that loot boxes should be banned. I know that this is probably a hot take, but I don't think that loot boxes should be banned. I think, though, that developers need to change the way that they put things into loot boxes and the percentages of things that you can get from loot boxes. I am someone that understands that developers and companies need to make money after your initial purchase. After your initial purchase, they need to make some sort of money most of the time. It started with DLC. I personally, like I said, really enjoy that model. I would rather pay $20 every 4 months for, a year or something to get extra content, but you're actually getting a lot of good content. Loot boxes, they're supposed to be micro transactions, but unfortunately, companies have pushed those boundaries and they're not micro anymore. It started with, like Overwatch, you have 2 loot boxes for $1.99, but then you have games which add expensive loot boxes like $20 for 2 loot boxes, or you have boxes, maybe even you have $50 for 5 of them or something, and the price just goes up. I'm sure you all know what I mean. And there's just companies that are always willing to push those boundaries, but I don't think that they should be banned. I just think that they need to be treated very differently, and companies need to treat the practice very differently. Elsewhere, in April of 2018, the Belgian government classified loot boxes as a form of gambling in the country, thus subjecting them to regulation. And following September, EA defied the ruling, of course EA, always causing problems, and did not remove loot boxes from FIFA 2018, thus paving the way for potential litigation against the company. However, EA did give into the ruling. For its part, a developer removed loot boxes from the title Rocket League last year, a move that came months after the company was purchased by Epic Games. As you can see, governments are starting to classify loot boxes as gambling. And should they be? Maybe. There are other governments that are looking into it, like, UK. Blizzard and Valve have also addressed loot box issues with Heroes of the Storm and Dota 2, both receiving significant overhauls to their microtransaction systems last year. There are some companies that are playing fairly, I guess you could say. There are some companies who are trying to respect governments and say, you know what, maybe we can change for the better, and maybe out of the situation something good can come out of it. Maybe people would respect us more. But then you have companies that say, I don't care what consumers think about me, I just want to make money, which ruins it for everyone. It definitely ruins it for all of these other companies who are trying to follow their rules and respect guidelines and all of these things. You know, that's just the way it works, though. You always have to have those couple of companies that act like assholes, basically, that act in a way that ruins the fun for everyone else. Microtransactions have become a staple of the game's business, with live services depending on them for sustainability, and free-to-play experiences like Fortnite have built an empire on such a foundation. This isn't a problem when microtransactions are transparent and consumers know what they're buying. When blind loot boxes come into play, though, the practice can feel predatory, as if developers are profiting off of potential addiction. Yes, I agree with this. I do agree with this. They need to be transparent, consumers need to know what they're buying, and they just need to be treated differently. It does finish off, though, with, as the IGDA has said in the past, government intervention, such as what we're seeing in the UK, is the inevitable next step when the games industry doesn't self-regulate. If developers and publishers won't voluntarily end predatory practices, the government will do it for them, and that's not good for anyone. So that's all that we really know right now. It is the very beginning stages of the situation, but the UK government is going to be collecting evidence on video game loot boxes. I guess we'll have to see what happens, if the UK will kind of label them as gambling and label games with microtransactions and loot boxes as gambling, but we don't really know right now, and when there is an update, I will let you all know for sure. So that is all that we had to talk about with that topic. We will move to the next one in just a moment. This is why I believe Cyberpunk 2077 will be a huge game changer. Usually, CD Projekt Red doesn't add microtransactions into their games. They are usually very good about that, and I do think that hopefully Cyberpunk 2077 will be worth the money, but we have to see. We have to see. Yeah, so yeah. One moment, you guys. I'm going to bring up another article really quickly that has to do with this, which I did mention at the beginning, but I will bring it up right here. Because it is kind of an update. I guess I should just read the article really quickly. Loot boxes, Lords call for immediate gambling regulation. This is, I guess you could say, like, kind of a follow-up to what we were just reading. I did mention at the beginning, which is why I read the previous article, but I'll read through this really quickly. The House of Lords Gambling Committee says video game loot boxes should be regulated under gambling laws. Now, this is just them saying that it should be regulated under gambling laws, but it's not, like, confirmed or, hey, this is definitely happening, but it is important. The Lords say that they should be classified as games of chance, which should bring them under the Gambling Act of 2005. If a product looks like gambling and feels like gambling, it should be regulated as gambling. I mean, that honestly is pretty simple thinking, in my opinion. If it feels like something, if it is monetized that way, it should be, regulated as that. And they warn that such a change should not wait. The government must act immediately to bring loot boxes within the remit of gambling legislation and regulation, said a statement accompanying the report. Loot boxes have, of course, long been controversial in video games. They offer players a chance at a randomized reward when opened. As I read, we all know this, I just read it, but one of the chairmen of the committee told the BBC Breakfast that lots of other countries have already started to regulate loot boxes because they can see the dangers, which is teaching kids to gamble. A lot of games aren't marketed towards kids, but yes, a lot of games that kids are playing, you know, like Fortnite, and you have other games are monetized poorly and do have loot boxes, but he said the Gambling Act was way behind what was actually happening in the market, but he added that the overwhelming majority of the report's recommendations could be enacted today as they don't require legislation. There's academic research which proves that there is a connection, though not necessarily a casual link, between loot box spending and problems gambling. That is something that I do feel needs to be researched more. But there have been some studies which do appear to link the two. But again, you know, more research is always great and always important, I feel. But that's all that we really know, is that there are lords calling for immediate regulations for loot boxes, which there have been many, like, United States senators and whatnot calling for the same thing. So, you know, will the UK follow? I have a feeling that yes, the UK will regulate loot boxes and stick them under the gambling section. I do think so. But that's all that I really had to talk about with that topic. When loot boxes are gone, they will take the opportunity to push games to $100. I do think that companies are going to start raising the prices of video games. I do think that video games are going to go up. I do have a bad feeling about that. It was brought up today or yesterday. It was today. NBA 2K21, actually next generation, is going to go up. They are raising the price of 2K games, and they are going to $70 instead of $60 for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Is that price tag warranted? I don't know if they plan to start doing these amazing, great things to 2K games, but every year a 2K game comes out like NBA, and they're never worth the price tag. They always drop very quickly, and they're never worth that $60 price tag. So to raise them to $70 is very worrying, because that could mean that next generation companies are going to follow, and, you know, the baseline for AAA games is going to be $70. I'm curious to see if that's going to happen or not. I think a lot of video games are overpriced. I am someone that believes $60 video games a lot of the time aren't worth it. And if they were to raise to $70, you would have to seriously add much more content to make it worth it, at least in my opinion. $70, better give me all the content, and they should not complain. $70, hell no. I think that some games could warrant a $70 price tag, but 2K? No. Sports games? No. You come out with a new one every single year, and the only difference is the rosters and the monetization and outfits. That's it. That's it. I think if you want to charge people more money for games, you need to give them more content. You literally can't take a game and just add $10 more because you want to. You have to give consumers more content. $20 in the impulse price threshold. Yeah, development costs have not been higher, but some franchises really should not be $70. I understand that development costs go up. I do understand that, but that is also why they add microtransactions into games, is to make more money. So if you're going to charge $70, don't put microtransactions in the game. There better not be loot boxes. There better not be, you know, skins that you can buy. That's why microtransactions are a thing. No? Alright, we'll move into the next topic in just a second. I don't think that most video games should be $20, but I don't think that they should be $70 either. At least in my opinion. Alright, we are going to move on to the next topic. Which is the media attacking superheroes. Really quickly before we get into the next topic, if you are enjoying the content, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. It does really help support the channel. And consider donating via PayPal. I will put the email into chat, but if you do want to donate, I do really appreciate it. I will read the message that you put with your donation on stream. It does all help the channel because it is currently not monetized. I'd rather pay $90 than no microtransactions ever. It's a hard balance. It definitely is. But I think that everyone is going to have different opinions. Because, yeah, you know, games are $60, and to a lot of people, buying a $60 game all the time is expensive. And then there are some people who would rather, like you said, pay $90 or $100 for a game and not have to deal with microtransactions. Pay to win is the main bad thing about microtransactions. I do agree. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is superheroes. Oh boy. Superheroes are something that is always attacked. And as a fan of superhero comics and movies and merchandise and games, I don't want to see something I love attacked just because it exists. Literally, superheroes are attacked just because they exist. So Time decided to put out an article. Yeah. Titled, "We're Re-Examining How We Portray Cops on Screen. And now it's time to talk about superheroes." The problem that I have with this article is that this writer doesn't really think superheroes are bad, or they're, as they call them, cops in capes. They literally wrote this article to come to the conclusion that they start with one narrative and then they end up with another. They literally come to the conclusion that more superheroes should be people of color, and the people writing and directing these films should be people of color. And those things aren't bad. I'm not saying they are. Those things are not bad. But they reel you in thinking that you're reading an article about superheroes are bad and superheroes are just cops with capes. And it ends up with, we should all be more diverse and there should be more diversity behind the scenes. So we're re-examining how we portray cops on screen. But now it's time to talk about superheroes. In the past several weeks, as calls to defund the police have gone mainstream, pop culture critics and fans have been reconsidering how Hollywood heroizes cops. Legal procedurals and shoot-'em-up action movies have long presented a skewed perception of the justice system in America, in which the police are almost always positioned as the good guys. That is definitely not true. In a lot of superhero stories, the cops start off as kind of, I guess you could say, the bad guys. Like, they never accept the superheroes, or they think the superheroes are bad and the superheroes are gonna hurt us, and bad, bad, bad. They always start off bad. Yes, in a lot of cases, sometimes they do end up, oh my gosh, the superhero just saved us from the aliens, just saved us from a meteor, just saved us from all of these bad, awful things. I guess we should like them. I guess we should trust them. But they don't, you know, they're not always positioned as the good guys. They say these good cop narratives are rarely balanced out with stories of systemic racism in the criminal justice system. The bad guys they pursue are often people of color, their characteristics undeveloped beyond their criminality. This isn't true either. The bad guys in superhero movies are not often people of color, they're just people. They don't just go after people of color or women or men, they go after the bad guys. People of color in entertainment sometimes happen to be the bad guys. In entertainment, sometimes women happen to be the bad guys, the bad people. You know, are you saying that the only people that can be bad in a movie or in entertainment could be white, straight, cis men? I mean, is that instantly what they're saying? In this period of reckoning, the long-running show Cops and the widely watched live PD have been cancelled. Actors and writers who contributed to police procedurals are criticizing their own work and donating money to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. But as we engage in this long overdue conversation about law enforcement, it's high time we also talk about the most popular characters in film, the ones who decide the perimeters of justice and often enact them with violence. Superheroes. Oh boy, guys, we have to cancel superheroes now. Oh no, because they save us from bad guys, we have to cancel them. I mean, seriously. Rez. What are they talking about? The bad guy is almost always a white guy with a British accent. Yeah, or a German guy with a lot of bad guys. Yeah, with German accents. Yeah, okay. So we have white guys with British accents, and we have the people with the German accents. Cops with capes. Superheroes have dominated popular culture for the last decade. They are fixtures of the highest grossing movies and icons to more than just our children. They are beacons of inspiration. Protesters dressed as Spider-Man and Batman have turned up at recent Black Lives Matter demonstrations. And yet, what are superheroes? Except cops with capes who enact justice with their powers. Superhero movies are the highest grossing movies because superheroes like Superman and Aquaman and Batwoman and Harley Quinn don't exist. They are the highest grossing movies because they're fictional. Yes, look at the Avengers. They're set in a world which is very similar to ours. You know, you have New York and Texas and all these places. But Thor isn't real. Captain America isn't real. These are fictional characters. And even though, yes, the world that they're in, you know, appears to be ours, it's supposed to be ours, it's not. Because we don't have Thor running around. We don't have the Hulk. We don't have Spider-Man. We don't have these things. It's because they're fictional characters. That's why they sell so well. It's because people want to go to the movies and to watch forms of movies which are fictional with characters and things that can't happen in real life. That's the point. That is why so many people enjoy these things. So they say that what are superheroes except cops with capes who enact justice with their powers? I don't really think that superheroes are like cops. They're more like soldiers. They don't arrest people or really pick right from wrong. They literally just defend and fight if need be. They don't abide by any laws either. I mean, look at all these fictional characters. They're not going around arresting people. They're literally fighting, yeah, the bad guys, but the bad guys that are from outer space. I'm losing some brain cells reading this, as you guys can't tell. With a few notable exceptions, more on those later, most superhero stories start... This is... Okay, this is the part. Most superhero stories star straight white men who either function as an extension of a broken US justice system or as vigilantes without any checks on their powers. Usually, they have some sort of tentative relationship with the government. The Avengers work for the secretive agency S.H.I.E.L.D. Batman takes orders from Gotham PD Commissioner Gordon. Even the villainous members of the Suicide Squad execute government orders in exchange for commuted prison sentences. And even when superheroes function outside of the justice system, they're sometimes idolized by police because they're able to skirt laws to get the job done. That ain't true. That isn't true at all. I just want to say that in all of these cases, they're talking about the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. They're talking about Batman and the GCPD. They're talking about, Suicide Squad and trading X, Y, and Z for their own freedom. In every movie, if they work with a government agency, they literally never listen to the government agency. Never do they. It's like, oh, Loki's doing something bad and Thor wants to go and talk to him one-on-one. S.H.I.E.L.D. tells him no. What the hell does Thor do? Thor goes and does what he wants because he's Thor, the god of thunder. Like, you have all these characters, basically, that, okay, yeah, maybe they agree to help these agencies, but 90% of the time they don't listen. The agency says, don't do X, Y, and Z, and what do? They do X, Y, and Z. Batman doesn't take orders from anyone. These heroes, most of the time, want to help. They don't want to make things worse. So like Batman, he listens to Gordon because he doesn't want to fuck things up worse. He wants to help, and he has allies. Having allies at organizations like the GCPD doesn't instantly mean that it's bad. That's not bad. You're trying to help the people of this place. He's trying to help the people of Gotham City. So why would he, ignore the police and kind of say, screw them, I'm not gonna have them help me at all? Because to Batman, they are, good allies sometimes. They give him info and all these things, but Batman doesn't take orders from anyone. Thor doesn't take orders from anyone. Tony Stark doesn't take orders from anyone. The claims seem like a stretch and overgeneralization of outdated examples. Agreed. The Punisher is a representation of a larger problem in superhero narratives. When Batman ignores orders and goes rogue, there's no oversight committee to assess whether Bruce Wayne's biases influence who he brings to justice and how. Oh, look. So they literally just said previously, right here, that Batman takes orders from the Gotham City Police Commissioner Gordon, yet right here they say when Batman ignores orders. So they just contradicted themselves. Heroes like Iron Man occasionally feel guilt about the casualties they inflict, but ultimately empower themselves again and again to draw those moral lines. In the real world, they talk about the tolerance of law enforcement acting with impunity is eroding. They say most of the blockbuster Marvel and DC comic movies skirt the issue of who should define justice for whom. Captain America: Civil War and Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice briefly float the idea of superhero oversight, but both devolve into quip-filled CGI fistfights. What's more, given that the creators and stars of these movies have historically been white men, it's hardly surprising that so few reckon with issues of systemic racism, let alone sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of bigotry embedded in the justice system or the inherent biases these superheroes might carry with them as they patrol the streets or the universe. Oh no! Because some of the characters are, white men, that instantly means that these superheroes need to be marked as bad. I don't think that should be the case. Okay, Bruce Wayne is a white man. Okay, Superman is a white man. He's played by a white man. Why do these things have to be bad? Why? Because I don't think that they should be. It's a fictional character. So they go on to say, there is some history of reckoning with policing in black superhero films. Blade, the 1998 Wesley Snipes superhero movie, launched the superhero movie boom we're still in today, giving Marvel its first box office smash. The movie, written and directed by white men, references tensions between black communities and the police. Of course. They literally, they try to give it a compliment by saying, oh hey, this black superhero film launched the movie boom, but of course, there's always that negative thing that they have to find, that it was written and directed by white men. I mean, seriously. They go on to explain basically the plot of Black Panther, and how he faces off with a would-be usurper named Killmonger, who argues that Wakanda must abandon its policy of isolationism and help combat systemic oppression across the world. T'Challa's arc is to realize his nemesis is right. While Killmonger and his father broke laws and enacted violence for their cause, their conviction that people of color have historically lacked the tools to fight systemic oppression was correct. T'Challa eventually comes to represent a compromise between these two viewpoints, and he uses his relative privilege to empower people who have been held back by colonism and racism, but finds non-violent methods to do so. Seriously? So, they talk about also when superheroes and cops collide. It's not just that superheroes act like members of law enforcement, sometimes they interact with them directly. Spider-Man has long had a complicated relationship with the NYPD. Last year's Spider-Man video game received some pushback over what many critics called copaganda. In the game, Peter Parker is a fan of the police, even fantasizing about being Spider-Cop. He spends much of the game fixing surveillance towers for the NYPD. The reason why superheroes sometimes do this is because most superheroes, like let's look at Peter Parker, grow up in a normal life. They're not growing up in a different place, like Thor or something. So they see the police and see that, yeah, police can do good too, and go, wow, I really wish that I could, fight bad guys, basically. That's basically why, Peter Parker might go, oh yeah, I'm a spider cop, because he grew up in a normal world. But the introduction of Miles Morales, who made his debut in the comics in 2011, could offer opportunities to explore the relationship between New Yorkers and police. Miles, who is half black, half Puerto Rican, is the son of a cop. In 2018's animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Miles' father doesn't know his son's secret identity. Does this mean that they're instantly going to cancel Miles because his father is a cop? Oh, he's the son of a cop. That can't happen. I know that they're saying like, oh, this could explore a whole new situation and a whole new storyline, but that I'm sure there's been people that have attacked Miles Morales because his dad's a cop, he's the son of a cop. A Spider-Verse sequel is in the works, and many fans hope it will focus more on Miles and less on Peter and deal with race more directly. Before that, a Miles Morales video game will arrive, hopefully with a more nuanced take on the NYPD than a game that preceded it. A lot of people just want to play a video game. Video games are a form of escapism. People just want to play a video game. You don't always need to push these things into video games. And while yes, I do think that there are some times where it's not done in a bad way, that doesn't mean that people want to see it. Continuing on though, the way forward, this is the end of the article, the way forward. If Hollywood is to do better in telling these stories, more creators of color need to be given the reins to tell them. It's worth noting that while Lindelof employed a diverse writer's room, it likely took his name and cash as the creator of Lost and The Leftovers to get such an ambitious story greenlit. And similarly, while the director of Spider-Verse became the first black man to win an Oscar for animation, Sony initially approached two white men who ended up producing the film, Lego Movie and Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, with the opportunity to make an animated Spider-Man. I just want to say that I think that it's great that people of color and women are winning awards for directing and producing and all of these things, and there are many people of color and women in minorities that are winning awards for acting and whatnot. I don't think that just because you want people like of color to be directing something means that they should instantly get the job. I think that the person that is the most the most qualified to get the job should get the job. If they're a white person or a black person, I think either way is perfectly fine. I just think that the most qualified person should get the job. And I know a lot of other people think that way too. I'm not saying that, having a diverse writer's room is a bad thing. That is not a bad thing at all. Having diverse people behind the scenes of a project is great. That is not a bad thing. But we can't just shame people because they were born a white man. You can't shame them just because, oh hey, a white man wrote this. That means we shouldn't like it. I don't agree with that mindset. Writers must also shake the notion that they are bound by the strictures of outdated intellectual property. These days, few big-budget productions move forward unless they are based on existing IPs. But the success of Watchmen suggests that the creators can snatch up those familiar characters and still weave a new story with new politics and a new perspective, only using fragments of what came before. Watchmen was terrible. What are they talking about? The success of Watchmen? They have never done Watchmen properly. Just as the Watchmen series is a radical departure from the Dusty Reagan-era graphic novel, both Black Panther and Into the Spider-Verse borrowed the names and backstories of their main characters from the comics but took those characters in a new ambitious direction. Only when this creative freedom is encouraged and Hollywood offers more opportunities to people of color creators and white creators use their capital to support creators who are too often overlooked, will we get more superhero tales that adequately grapple the complexity of justice in America. So that's the end of this article. That's all that they really had to say on it. But of course, they start at one point, which is that, superheroes are basically bad. That superheroes are cops with capes. But then they go to, well, if you're a black superhero or a female superhero, person of color superhero, you're great, you're fine, there should be more of you. So what's your angle? Is it that superheroes are cops with capes and they're bad, or that it's only the white male characters that are bad? I don't really think cops could be compared to superheroes. I don't really think that superheroes are like cops. I think they're more like soldiers, but that's all that I really had to discuss with this topic. They start with one narrative and end on a completely different narrative. This was a mess of an article, I want to be honest. This was a mess of an article. They do make a couple of points that are like, okay, I guess I can kind of see where you're going with this. Most of it is far-fetched. Most of it is far-fetched. They literally contradict themselves multiple times, like with this section, where they say Batman takes orders from the Gotham City Police Commissioner Gordon all of the time, yet they go on to say when Batman ignores orders and goes rogue. They just contradict themselves a lot. Anyway, that is all that I had to discuss with that article. We will move on to the next one in just a moment. The Watchmen HBO series was amazing and wasn't cancelled after one season. The creators simply didn't want or need to continue it. The Watchmen HBO series got terrible reviews. It got great reviews from critics and terrible reviews from users. I mean, I guess maybe a 54% isn't a terrible, but it wasn't that amazing, I guess you could say. 95 critic and a 54 audience score. I personally really didn't like it. I was not a fan of it. At least other people liked it. But it's like with The Last of Us Part 2 reviews, there's that huge discrepancy between the critic reviews and the audience reviews. Found you yesterday and I'm now suddenly randomly finding this stream. Hi, well, welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well. Watchmen HBO was SJW trash. Watchmen HBO was SJW trash, yes. It was really bad. It had, like a lot of things, 1 or 2 moments that were pretty good. I was not a fan of it, though. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, I see a lot of you guys agreeing. I hated it. Watchmen series was trash. The Last of Us Part 2 is not canon and trash. To each their own, could argue preferences and tastes. I'm not saying it's bad if you liked it. Oh no, I'm definitely not saying, I say that with anything. If you like it, you go for it. You support it, you defend it, go for it. I'm just saying, the critic reviews and the user reviews, there's a very large discrepancy there, and a lot of people did not like it on the fan side of things. My brother hates the Watchmen, and he's a big fan of Watchmen. Yeah. 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 I saw Angry Joe's Last of Us 2 review. It was great. If you guys have not seen the Angry Joe Last of Us 2 review after the stream, you should go and watch it. It was really good. It was really good. I've seen a lot of people asking me if there were any updates with the Angry Joe situation that I talked about in videos. There's not right now. If there are any, I will let you guys know. But we're going to move into the next topic of the night, which is a, which one do I want to talk about? I'm not sure yet. We're going to move into the next one, though. Really quickly, though, if you enjoy the content that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. It really does help support the channel. And please consider donating directly through PayPal. I just put the email in the live stream chat. And of course, all of the links are in the description of the live stream. My videos, I currently do not have them monetized, so all of the support really does help. Video games and equipment add up very quickly, so all of your support is really appreciated. All right, which topic do we want to discuss next? I've seen a lot of people... Is that booze? No, it's iced tea. I've seen a lot of people asking me about the Reckful situation, so I'm not going to talk about this too long because this is an extremely sad situation, and I just don't want to linger on it too much, but I do want to say a little bit about it. So if you guys do not know, Reckful / Byron, that was his name, he unfortunately committed suicide today. It has been very big. A lot of people have been talking about it. It was confirmed by his roommate. He was a esports player. He was a very, very talented World of Warcraft player. He has streamed World of Warcraft for years. He was a Twitch streamer. I'm sure a lot of you have at least seen him a couple of times, even if you were not a big fan of his. I personally was a pretty big fan of his. I have watched his content many times. I follow him on Twitter. You know, I've always followed him pretty closely. This is extremely sad news. It's hard to talk about. I do apologize, but I was a big fan of his, and I'm sure a lot of you all were too. He was very big in the esports and gaming industry. To see someone take their own life because they feel that there's like no other option is heartbreaking. And over the years, he has been extremely vocal about struggling with depression and the toll that social media took on him. Social media was never very kind to him. He always was struggling with a lot of negativity, as a lot of streamers and content creators do. It is extremely hard for a lot of people to, you know, get so big on like social media and their content, and they don't know how to deal with the negativity that comes with it. But he had been very vocal about his struggle with depression and mental health problems. And while social media can be a great thing and give many people great opportunities, it can also be a very toxic and a very negative thing because of how everything is done anonymously. People can do and say things that are extremely toxic and can hurt people in this just anonymous way. And I know people will say just ignore the trolls and the haters, but when you're constantly reading chats and messages and that is what your career is based around, that is what your everyday life is based around, it gets extremely hard to ignore. Everything on social media goes unchecked, and it's also a bastion for misinformation, allowing everyone to say anything that they want on such an open platform with no proof or science behind anything is causing a problem. It definitely is, and it also enables things like cancel culture. Without social media, cancel culture wouldn't be the way that it is today, where you make one accusation and you can send hundreds and thousands and millions of people after others when they may have done nothing wrong. And it can happen anywhere anyone makes a comment. I know people say, you know, if Twitter wasn't a thing, it wouldn't be this way, or if Facebook wasn't a thing, it wouldn't be this way. That's not the case. It happens anywhere anyone can make a comment. If you are posting in the live stream chat right now, it could happen. If you comment on YouTube videos, it could happen. If you read an article and comment on it, it could happen. It's not just one social media platform, it's any social media platform. Mental illness is not a joke. It is not something to be taken lightly, and it is so sad to see someone who did struggle just to never find a way to cope with the problems that he had. As you can see, what is on the screen right now, these are some screenshots from World of Warcraft today alone. This is a beautiful thing that so many people have done and come together to like pay their respects to him, because he was a very large World of Warcraft player and streamer. And this is such a positive thing to see so many people come together to pay their respects to this person. But like I said, social media is not always this way. This is, yes, an amazing thing that so many people have come together to pay their respects to his family and just as fans and friends. But it's not always this way. And it is so extremely sad to see someone never find a way to cope with their illnesses and how just their brain works and how they cope with social media and the attention, and they just never found a way. And it's extremely sad to see. That's all that I wanted to really say with the situation. It's a fresh situation, and I do not want anyone to think I'm being disrespectful towards him or his family or anything, but I did just want to say that while social media can be this great thing that gives people many opportunities, it can also be a very toxic and negative thing for a lot of people. But these are some of the screenshots in World of Warcraft just from today. People, I mean, look at how many people are here. Thousands of people getting together and paying their respects. It's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. It really is. It's something that no one asked for, but because he was such a respected person, people are willing to do this. This is the good that can come out of social media, but it took a very sad situation to get people together in one place to respect this person. But that's all that I had to talk about. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Not a big World of Warcraft guy, but those pictures are heartwarming. I agree, Daryl. I'm a World of Warcraft player. I haven't actively played in a bit, but, you know, it's heartwarming to see people in a community come together to just do this. Like, unwarranted, it wasn't like anyone had made a statement, said, hey, go to this place. It's literally just players wanting to be together to pay their respects. So that's all that I had to talk about with that. On to something a little bit more lighthearted. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say this is lighthearted, but it's definitely not as emotional of a situation. But I will read chat for a moment before we continue. There we go. Never cared about Warcraft. I like MMOs, so I play a lot of MMOs. I've played World of Warcraft, but the last of the mams, yeah. I cope with depression, and yeah, it can be crippling. I've never considered suicide, though. That's the next level of rock bottom. Everyone deals with their mental health very differently, and he was a huge creator. I mean, he had millions of people all of the time, you know, on social media, on, like, Twitter, 400,000 followers. On Twitch, he had millions of followers and subscribers, and some people just don't know how to deal with that fame and that attention. And while, yes, you can, you know, ignore the trolls and the haters to an extent, after a while, there's not going to be a way to when that's all you see. You know, social media can be a great thing, but it can also be a very negative thing. So, on to the next topic, which is a little bit different. I can't believe The Last of Us Part 2 and the way that media is defending The Last of Us Part 2. This is a GQ magazine post. The Last of Us Part 2's man-baby backlash is a stain on fan culture. I have been a critic of The Last of Us Part 2. Did they just assume my gender? I mean, I've been pretty critical of The Last of Us Part 2. But I guess I would be part of the man-baby backlash that they're going to talk about. The culture wars have come for The Last of Us Part 2 in a spectacularly moronic fashion. It's Star Wars The Last Jedi all over again. It's because Star Wars The Last Jedi was trash. It was bad. It was awful. The Last of Us Part 2 was always going to be divisive. It was written to evoke anger and frustration and upset and debate. In a recent interview with the game's director, Neil Druckmann, he told us he wanted to dismantle a game that so many gamers in the world hold sacred. So he's literally saying that he went into this to fuck with people's heads. And while I think it's okay to want to change the game, you know, to want to change characters, it's 5 years later from the first one, they want the characters to evolve and they want the story to continue. To literally say you want it to be divisive is something we don't hear very often. Because while yes, you want to differentiate it from the first one or games that are coming out around it, you never usually want people to hate it. And I guess Neil Druckmann he did. While there have been plenty of well-articulated critiques of the game's ultra-violent revenge quest, one particular fan constituency, primarily internet man-babies and basement lurkers, has reacted especially badly. In fact, their response has been more aggressive and dramatic than ever before. I guess I'm a man-baby and a basement lurker. I'm not in a basement right now. I do live a life. Thank you, GQ magazine, for offending my delicate sensibilities. This is, of course, not the first backlash against a video game. Now listen to the examples that they give, because you're going to notice a pattern here, a trend here. In 2012, Mass Effect 3, the conclusion to a trilogy of sci-fi epics, incited a petition to get its ending changed by the developers, who actually caved and did. No Man's Sky was such a disappointment to that many, its lead designer became the target of an online hate campaign. It's not just exclusive to video games either. You need to look at Star Wars The Last Jedi to see how toxic fandoms can become when it weaponizes itself to protect the thing it acts to own. Now, the reason why I shake my head at this is because they are literally naming the worst of the worst. People hated Mass Effect 3 because it was a half-assed Mass Effect experience. They took years to make Mass Effect 3 and it was bad. The story was bad, graphically it was bad, narratively it was bad, gameplay-wise it was buggy and broken and had problems. Of course people aren't going to like that. No Man's Sky came out and it was trash. It had graphical issues, it had gameplay issues, it was boring and bland, and after you completed the little bit of questing that you could, you had nothing to do. You literally, after 2 weeks, could finish the game and have nothing to do. Of course people didn't like No Man's Sky, and of course they bring up The Last Jedi. People didn't like The Last Jedi because it literally broke canon, it literally broke a ton of history in Star Wars. It killed off characters just to kill off characters. They literally killed off anyone that people that enjoyed the previous movies. They literally killed off all those characters. The writing was bad, the acting was bad, visually it was okay, but it just wasn't very good. Now, Mass Effect 3, they did end up, like it says, caving and changing it. They did change quite a bit of it. It's still not a perfect game. No Man's Sky, they did change it. No Man's Sky has the biggest flip ever. It had like a 20 or 30% rating online for like, oh, it's like 2 out of 5 stars, but now it is such a highly rated game because they fixed it and they listened to fans, and fans said, okay, we'll give you our money. No Man's Sky turned it around. Mass Effect 3, they tried to turn it around. It wasn't bad. But they literally attack fandoms for not liking something. People are allowed to not like things. I am allowed to say The Last of Us 2 had a bad story and I didn't like it. I'm allowed to say The Last Jedi was awful, they killed off characters, the cinematography wasn't great, the acting wasn't great. But you are also allowed to say, wow, The Last of Us Part 2 was great, I liked the story a lot, I really sympathized with the characters, and I thought I had a great experience. You are allowed to say The Last Jedi, I didn't mind it, I thought it was pretty good, I really liked Rey and Kylo and all of those characters. You are allowed to have different opinions. But the problem with articles like this is that if you don't share the same opinion as the writer, you're instantly bad. They go on to insult people. They already did by calling us man babies, but they go even further. The most direct expression of the ire is usually in the form of review bombing. This charming practice entails a horde of sweaty incels heading to Metacritic or any other user-based outlet such as Steam to have their voices heard in what can only be described as an ultimate Karen move. They literally are calling people, hey, if you don't like The Last of Us 2, you're a Karen and you're an incel. You are a sweaty incel. I want an apology, GQ. You called me a man baby. You called me a basement lurker. You called me a sweaty incel. Pick better insults. If you're going to insult people, at least insult them like you have at least a 50 IQ. Calling people sweaty incels and basement lurkers and man babies. None of that's unique. None of that's original. You literally copy and pasted that from another news outlet that wrote the same article as you. At least come up with better insults. It's the I want to speak to the manager of the video game world, in which gamers, who more often than not have decided that the one facet of the game irks them and therefore the entire product is worthless, head to a review site and collectively review the game with the lowest score possible. It's a protest, a boycott, a total rejection of everything the game stands for. The reason why review systems exist is for, guess what? People to review them. I watched the whole game, start to finish. I'm allowed to leave a review. People are allowed to boycott a product. I personally don't call for boycotts. If you want to support something that I don't, you go for it. You are allowed to. But people are allowed to boycott games. People are allowed to use a review system to leave, guess what? A review. It's just that simple. The Last of Us Part 2 might have sold 4 million copies in the first week, becoming PlayStation's fastest selling exclusive ever, but it has attracted review bombers on an epic scale. The anger has come about because, of course, they killed off, spoilers, the protagonist, and, they say, not to mention they have the gall to represent women, lesbians, transsexuals, and black people. I'm a woman that doesn't mind the fact that they had other women in the game. I don't mind that the game represents women or lesbians or transsexuals or people of color. I don't care about any of those things. That's great. You go for it. Give me a good story. Literally killing off Joel because you wanted to isn't a good excuse. They literally made Joel dumber. Joel in the first game would walk around and be like, who are you? He would not tell you his name for anything. He was very protective, he was very secretive, and he was very meticulous. He knew what he was doing at all times. He knew how vicious people could be, and he protected himself. But in this game, he's like, hi guys, I'm Joel. Yeah, my name's Joel. You've heard about me before, haven't you? Oh, by the way, I'm Joel. I mean, seriously. They made him a dumber character to lead to his death. Because I bet if they had not done that, he would have been alive in the game still. Review bombs on Metacritic or Steam or wherever are more often than not written by people who have clearly not played the game in question. You only need to look at the Metacritic page for Part 2 to see that. The game has so they say that critically it's got a 94, which indicates acclaim for the reviewers. There's been a lot of suspicious activity around the reviews. Okay, some of them didn't actually like the game. That's fine. But you also have to take into consideration fan reception. If fans are giving it a 3.0 out of 10, then yeah, you have to take that into consideration. But because they're saying, well, reviewers liked it and critics don't, or reviewers liked it and fans don't, screw the critics. We don't, I mean, screw, oh my goodness. Just because critics are saying they like it and fans are saying they don't, that doesn't mean instantly screw the fans, but they're acting like that's the case. Like, oh, because fans' opinions didn't align with the critics, that's instantly bad. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think that fan opinions are just as important as critic opinions, but they don't. This is based on, then you can look at the user score of 4.8 out of 10. This is based on more than 100,000 user reviews, far more than any other game I've encountered. For comparison's sake, Red Dead Redemption 2 on PS4 has only 11,000 reviews. Many of those for The Last of Us Part 2 were placed within hours of the game coming out. Not nearly enough time for many of those reviewers to actually have played the game in any meaningful way. I just want to say that I read that it's only 33% of people have finished The Last of Us Part 2. Only 33%. Now, I don't know where that number came from. I saw it on Twitter. I couldn't find it because I was trying to find it again. But apparently, supposedly, only 33% of people have finished The Last of Us Part 2. I think it's in the PlayStation dashboard. I tried to find it, I couldn't, but I think that it's in the PlayStation dashboard under the game's, like, user page, because you can see achievements, and then it also says, like, oh, the achievement for completing the game. But anyway, take a look at the user reviews themselves, and there's a running trend. Absolute disrespect towards the first game, reads one of them. I've read some of the Last of Us Part 2 reviews. You can go and watch that video if you want, because that's basically all they're talking about here. But they say, much talk about Part 2 before launch was about how it's a game that deals with hate. A story of retribution, injustice, and revenge in the most violent of terms. Having finished it twice now, it's also very much a game about love too. A game about seeing two sides of a story, of how love and compassion brings out the best in us as well as the worst. Their views limit the potential of the art form by pushing directors and studios to kowtow to fandoms and allow stories to be led by committees. Then they say we saw it with The Last Jedi sequel, the weak, forgettable, mediocre follow-up to The Rise of Skywalker, but most importantly, this rampantly toxic fandom is an embarrassment to games culture. It should be stamped out wherever it rears its head. They're basically saying, if you don't like it, if your opinion is different than mine, you deserve to not be in the community, which is bullshit. People are allowed to have different opinions than you. Not everyone is going to constantly agree, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean that someone else's opinion is less valuable than yours because they don't like the same thing as you. But that's all that I had to discuss in this live stream. Those are the topics that we discussed tonight. The Last of Us Part 2's man-baby backlash, Reckful, in social media. We talked about superheroes and the UK government and loot boxes. I am going to go to the Q&A portion of the live stream, so if you have any questions or topics you want me to discuss, please feel free to put them into chat now. And yeah, I will be focusing on chat. If anyone wants to bring up any topics, feel free to place them into chat now. I'm not sure, guys. Wow. You know, being called a man baby and a basement dweller and an incel is just... I wish that some media didn't act this way. I wish that they could literally act in a respectful way and act like adults. Like, oh, you have a different opinion than mine. Well, that's okay, but no, it's never that way. It's never that way. It's always, your opinion is different than mine, meaning you don't deserve to be part of the same community that I am. It's disgusting, in my opinion. I haven't talked about the Super Smash Me Too that happened because I've only been talking about those situations when someone has given a statement, and from what I saw, the other parties, so I know that a lot of Me Too is going on in the gaming industry right now, but the other side of the story hasn't been told yet. When the other side of the story has been told, and if I feel it's something to talk about, I will talk about it. But I usually don't want to talk about just one side of the story. Any games you are planning to stream? Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be starting Horizon Zero Dawn. I have been wanting to stream Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, getting ready for the sequel. So tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Horizon Zero Dawn. Be here. We're going to start the game. I'm extremely excited for it. So yeah, I also plan to, in a couple of weeks, play Amazon's MMO New World. That is supposed to be coming out on the... I believe it's the 17th. I will double check, but it's going into beta, and because I do have the game pre-ordered, I do have access to beta, so I will probably stream a little bit of the beta. Besides those games, though, I'm not sure what else I will be playing anytime soon. I do have a nice brand new copy of Dark Souls Remastered, so maybe I'll play that eventually here. Possibly. Who knows? Horizon Zero Dawn was a good game. It was a very good game, and I'm very excited about the sequel, so I thought that I would live stream it. we should play on the same server on New World. Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure what server, like how many servers are going to be or what servers people are going to be playing on, but I will figure it out and then we can all play on the same server. That's a great game. HCD, yeah, it's a fantastic game. Evo may get canceled. Yeah, I know the Mr. Wizard situation happened. He has been accused of doing a lot of things. I know that there's a big situation with Evo going on, but we haven't heard his response yet, which is why I haven't talked about it yet. Open some packs, like Magic the Gathering packs. I have some packs. I have some packs behind me if you guys want me to open a real pack. I do have some packs. I've been playing Arena occasionally. I haven't been playing it lately, but I was playing Arena quite a bit. But I haven't played it any, like, the past couple of days or anything. Did you pre-order Ghost of Tsushima and will you play it? I don't currently have Ghost of Tsushima pre-ordered now. It is a game that I am interested in, but I don't have it pre-ordered currently. Crack a pack. I have some packs. I do have some packs. Horizon Zero Dawn's only issue is it feels like 3 20-hour games lined up every time you get to a new city or whatever. None of your past actions or characters return. It's sad. I don't mind Horizon Zero Dawn at all. I do think that it does have a couple of small problems that could be different. But I'm very excited about number 2, and I wanted to replay number 1. Here in Germany, accusations without proof, public proof are illegal. 3 years maximum sentence. Ooh. Maybe it should be that way. What packs do I have? You know what? For a $5 donation, I'll crack a pack. What do I even have? Oof. I have some OG Zendikar. Not cracking that pack. I have core sets. I have a lot of older core sets. Rise of the Eldrazi. Scars of Mirrodin. I'm not opening new Phyrexian. No, thank you. I have a lot of older packs, though. Mirrodin Besieged. I could open some Mirrodin. I haven't streamed any Magic the Gathering Arena in a while. I would like to stream Magic the Gathering Arena at some point here. There's been a lot of new games coming out, and with, you know, Wizards of the Coast's actions, I've just been a little bit turned off from Magic the Gathering and, you know, D&D, but I would like to stream it again soon, for sure. Because I know a lot of people enjoy the Magic the Gathering streams, just because they're lighthearted and easy. Ghost of Tsushima looks good, but I will wait for reviews from people I trust. I, again, don't have it pre-ordered. It looks good. It looks good. I'm just worried that it's too hyped up and then people aren't actually going to enjoy it as much as they thought they would. Because I feel like when a game's called an open world action adventure, people expect a lot from it, and most of the time we don't get a lot from it. When's the release date? It's July 17th. Okay. Amazon's New World comes out it's closed beta, right? July 23rd. So the 17th Tsushima comes out and the 23rd is the Amazon New World beta. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll play it yet. Do you play the Demon Souls remaster as well? Well, speaking of Demon Souls, I just ordered a couple of days ago. I got in, it was donated to me actually because I put it on the wish list, Demon Souls. And I've been slowly playing it, and I may stream it. I will definitely be playing the Demon Souls remaster, or remake when it comes out, sorry. Between all these remasters and remakes, I can't keep track. When the remake comes out, I will be streaming it most likely, yeah. I really hope Amazon's Game Studios play ball with you, Vera. Gotta get them on here for an interview. Well, Crucible. Definitely. Doesn't make me feel very confident. Amazon has a game named Crucible, and they literally released it, and then they took it out of official release and put it back into beta. It's Amazon's first original title. It's their first original published title, I believe, by their gaming division, so that's interesting. I know it's a different team that's working on it still, but like, oh, when Amazon's attached to it, you know, you get very, very hesitant. But I would totally be interested in talking to them. I'm a big MMO player, and I plan to put a lot of time into it, so that would be interesting. Whatever happened until innocent until proven guilty? Yeah, I'm not sure. The worst movie? What is the worst movie you've watched this year? I am not sure. Honestly, some of the best movies I've watched are Invisible Man. Invisible Man was pretty good. It wasn't the best. It had some plot holes, but Invisible Man was pretty good. Underwater, I really liked Underwater. I'll be honest. At first, I didn't like it. The first time I watched it, I just didn't like it. But the second time, I feel like I appreciated it a lot more. I feel like I did. Do you think Ghost of Tsushima is going to get the Sonic / treatment just to save The Last of Us Part 2? That probably won't happen, but it's just a thought. No. Are you a My Hero fan? My Hero Academia? Is that what you mean? It's guilty until proven otherwise. Change my mind. Oh, I think it should be innocent until proven guilty. I think it should stay that way. The remake looks great so far. Demon Souls remake? Oh yeah, definitely. It really looks good so far. I do agree. The Boys was pretty good. I've heard a lot about Season 2 and their plans for Season 2, which I'm not a huge fan of. But the first season was pretty good. If we could get them on here, we could ask what the challenges have been to get their games out at a quality level that's acceptable. Oh yeah, definitely. I always say it, but if a developer wants to reach out to me and wants to come on a live stream or a video and talk about their game, even if they are an indie developer, I would always be willing to do that. Definitely. Where are you from? I am from the East Coast in the United States. That is where I am from. I always live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern because I am Eastern. You have Twitter? I do have a Twitter. I will link it in chat for you. We're almost to 5,000 followers, which is fun. Oh, my voice. We're almost to 5,000 followers, which is fun. I do also have a Patreon in case you want to go and support there. I do not have my videos monetized currently, so all of the support there does really help. I've actually... Really quickly, I'll tell you guys. I started watching Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. Pretty good. The first 2 episodes were pretty interesting. I just feel like the next episodes don't sound that enticing, but I suppose we'll have to see. So far, though, it's pretty good. I enjoy it. East Coast represent the best coast. Yes, East Coast, best coast. Next year, when everything's reopened, hopefully, maybe, possibly, cross your fingers, PAX East. It's gonna be fun. It's going to be fun. Zip code? What? Zip code. Wow, 114 likes and 13 watchers. Yes, thank you guys. I do appreciate you being here and supporting, definitely. I do very much so appreciate it. If you guys have any final topics or questions, please feel free to put them into chat now. Just because I will probably be ending the stream very soon. Whoops, I accidentally just clicked a button that I wasn't supposed to click. I love clicking buttons I'm not supposed to click, you guys. Don't you guys like that? We also have a Discord server if you are not in the Discord already. No, we do not need her zip code. I don't think you need my zip code, no. I do not think so. I love this music. I'm very glad you enjoy the music. I change up the music every once in a while. Sometimes it's metal. Sometimes it's synthwave. It depends. What is your favorite anime? Neon Genesis Evangelion. I've enjoyed a lot of the more, I guess you could say, mainstream animes like Soul Eater. Soul Eater was okay, like My Hero Academia. It's pretty good. I don't like a lot of newer series, though. I'm someone that likes slightly, I guess you could say, more aged series. I'm not sure how to say it. I hear that EVO has imploded. It has imploded. There's been a lot of Me Too allegations going on in the fighting game community. A lot of games are backing out of EVO. A lot of companies are saying they don't want to support it anymore. I want to wait for a little bit more information before I do really talk about it. Just because there's a lot of allegations going on right now and a lot of nasty allegations going on right now. But when we have more information, I definitely will touch on it a bit more. I've mentioned it a couple of times tonight, but did you hear that the NBA, NBA 2021 is going to be $70. It's going to be a $70 game, which is interesting. Modern anime is mostly awful. 1990s and earlier 2000s anime is vastly superior in my opinion. I do agree with you, Rez. I think that modern anime, there are some very good series, but I do personally prefer the older, like 90s, 2000s anime series. Cowboy Bebop is good. Cowboy Bebop is very good. Understandable, it takes my best friend a lot to get into some of the newer anime. I'm not like against it or anything. I definitely watch a lot of the newer series. I definitely though feel like there's a specific like vibe that older more aged series like 90s and 2000s have that I personally really like. Maybe it's just the atmosphere with like the music and just the graphics, and I'm not sure. What do you think about Harley Quinn cartoon? I have not seen the newest Harley Quinn cartoon or anything. Attack on Titan is pretty good, yeah. SAO Sword Art Online. I've never been able to get into Sword Art Online. I've tried a couple of times, but yeah. All right, you guys, I am going to end the live stream here. Thank you all so much for stopping by tonight. I do very much so appreciate it. If you enjoyed the live stream, please make sure to give it a like. And of course, if you not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way. Please make sure to follow me on Twitter if you are not already. I do appreciate the support. Please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. The support goes into the channel and it really does help. And if you are not already part of our Discord, please make sure to join it. We are very active there. We do have a special channel that Dark Titans supporters can go into. But tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be here live streaming Horizon Zero Dawn. We are starting the new playthrough. But thank you all so much for stopping by and have a fantastic night, everyone.